I'm biased, okay? I wrote the law and I implemented the law. So I'm very biased, okay? I was on the board. I'm actually one of those unelected bureaucrats you may have heard about from a certain presidential candidate who actually appointed me to be an unelected bureaucrat to make healthcare decisions. It's just, you can't do it politically. You just literally cannot do it, okay? Transparent financing, unless I have transparent financing, also transparent spending. I mean, this bill was written in a tortured way to make sure CBO did not score the mandate as taxes. If CBO scored the mandate as taxes, the bill dies, okay? So it's written to do that. In terms of risk-rated subsidies, if you had a law which said healthy people are going to pay in, it made explicit that healthy people pay in and sick people get money, it would not have passed. Okay, just like lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. And basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever. But basically, that was really, really critical to getting the thing to pass. And it's the second best argument. Look, I wish Mark was right. We can make it all transparent, but I'd rather have this law than not. If you're a state and you don't set up an exchange, that means your citizens don't get their tax credits.
Was this a typo, saying that only if you had a state exchange could you get a subsidy and therefore be required to participate? Or was it some significant policy decision not to include states that didn't have exchanges?
Chris, it is unambiguous this is a typo. Literally every single person involved in the crafting of this law has said that it's a typo, that they had no intention of excluding the federal states, and why would they? I think what's important to remember politically about this is if you're a state and you don't set up an exchange, that means your citizens don't get their tax credits. No economist, and I'm sure Doug agrees with this, no economist would ever set up a health system with a tax subsidy employer-provided health insurance. It's a terrible policy. Turns out politically, it's really hard to get rid of. And the only way we could take it on was first by mislabeling it, calling it a tax on insurance plans rather than a tax on people, and we all know it's really a tax on people who hold those insurance plans. And the second way was to start it late, started in 2018. But by starting it late, we're able to tie the cap for the Cadillac tax to the CPI, not to medical inflation. What that means is a tax which starts by only taxing about the top 8% of health insurance plans essentially amounts over the next 20 years to basically getting rid of the employer exclusion for employer-provided health insurance. Hero, John Kerry, or more likely staff, came up with a great substitute idea. They said, look, what you economics nerds want to do is you want to say that for people with expensive health insurance plans, they will no longer get a 40% tax break. What if we instead just levied a 40% tax on the insurance companies that sell these terrible expensive Cadillac plans? We said, well, that's pretty much the same thing. So why does it matter? I said, you'll see. And they proposed it, and that passed. The American voter is too stupid to understand the difference. Okay? So the second Massachusetts hero arose, John Kerry. And John Kerry said, no, we're going to tax your health insurance. We're going to tax those evil insurance companies. We're going to impose a tax that if they sell health insurance that's too expensive, we're going to tax them. And conveniently, the tax rate will happen to be the marginal tax rate under the income tax code. So basically, it's the same thing. We just tax the insurance companies. They pass it on higher prices. That offsets the tax break we get. It ends up being the same thing. It's a very clever, basically exploitation of the lack of economic understanding of the American voter.